This is Lloyd Princeton with Design Management Company, and I am thrilled to welcome everybody to today's call. We have a lot of good people joining, and I'm feeling very amped up. I've just played you one of my new favorite pieces of music, and I tell you, if my business falls apart from the pandemic, I think I'm going to become a disc jockey. We don't call them that anymore, but I think that could be fun. And this is what I listen to at like 6 in the morning when I dance around my kitchen because, of course, no one's looking except my dog, and he's somewhat entertained. Anywho, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. There will be time for Q&A, and you'll be able to unmute yourselves. And that has been done. Okay, so lots of stuff going on. I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about a quick business thing, and then I'm going to be turning the floor over to the lovely BJ Gray, who I had the pleasure of skiing with this year, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyway, so show me the money. I think that is what all of us should be screaming to the government right now, because there's lots of talk about all this great small business help and intervention, but I don't know about any of you, but I haven't received my money yet. I have one acknowledgement that an application's been received. I've had with my PPP. I've been told by the SBA that I have been approved for an EIDL emergency advance, but that's as far as it got because they ran out of money. So much for an emergency and so much for an advance. But in theory, it is on. And we are now just waiting for an online portal to become live through the SBA. In the e-blast, I've shared with you all an 800 number for the SBA, which I got to tell you answers within minutes. And so there hasn't been any waiting time. The 2 times I've called and somebody else I've referred over as well. And they pulled up my account pronto and gave me information pronto, which included having pulled my credit report, that I was approved for an advance, and now I'm waiting for a loan officer. So there are steps. They are responsive. I just don't have any money. So a lot of good that does me. But it is in process. It's in motion. As we all read today, the Congress has approved the next stimulus package, and now we're just waiting for the president to sign it. And they expect the online portal with the SBA to be live probably Monday. So I do have a designated link for that. I will be sharing that with everybody as well. So that is my little update from on the loan front. And then also, I think there's been a lot of great content out there, which doesn't need to be repeated, from various organizations about what designers are doing to continue their businesses, working with their various supply chains. And I want to just share my optimistic thought that many designers that I know that had business are still very busy. The only hiccup is the fact that they may not be able to get on construction projects, but things are in motion. I have one great client who's got a firm of 6 people in Jupiter, Florida, who said that since her staff has actually been working from home, their billables have gone up because they're actually being more efficient with their time, and that she's gotten new project inquiries since they closed their office for the pandemic. So, and that's not uncommon information. I've got clients on Long Island and New York who are super busy, and their projects are moving forward. And on both coasts. So, my prediction is that, and we love predictions, right? That as soon as the supply chain is actually able to open and people are really able to place orders, I think there's going to be a lot of orders. So I am feeling optimistic, and I can certainly elaborate on why I feel optimistic about it. But I don't have a crystal ball. It's just what I'm seeing. So I think our industry is going to pull through this. However, let's talk about the human part of this, the how do we really feel, and which is one of the reasons why I wanted to pull in, we're pulling in BJ today to talk to us, is because, I know even for myself, I was feeling a little down the last day or two, and one of the things I started noticing is that I had made an strong effort to call friends, to call some clients, and just reach out to people, and in many cases, I wasn't getting any responses back. No one was calling me back. So I figure either, of course, like any good, like any good person with a good self-esteem, I went ahead and internalized it and just figured they hated me. And then I went and called a client who I know likes me, and I'm having a 3 o'clock happy hour with today because I'm on the West Coast and she's on the East Coast. So my drinking starts at 3 today. And she goes, you know what? I really just think people are sad right now. I just think, they're, even though they're moving forward and working, there's still a part of them that feels sad about things not being what they were, not being able to live their lives as before, and they just don't want to talk about it anymore. And lo and behold, front page of the Wall Street Journal today was an article confirming that people are just zoomed out, that people they're burnt out on Zoom calls and talking to people and just don't want to talk anymore. So while I jokingly said to her it may be because they don't like me, it is also a high probability that they just simply don't want to have a conversation with anybody that they absolutely don't have to have, which probably means a client. So, I can tell you I'm feeling it, and, now I was a lot more buoyant, last week, and now I'm feeling a little of the heaviness of it, and sometimes bored, but it is what it is. And I think it's important that we not just pay attention to our businesses, but that we, pay attention to ourselves and our minds. And I think that is an excellent opening and segue for the lovely BJ Gray, who, as I mentioned, I met on a ski trip in Mammoth in California this year, and she was with a gaggle of her girlfriends, all professionals, plastic surgeon who I plan on visiting in Atlanta the minute I can get back on a plane, IT entrepreneur and more. And just good, fun people, and they meet every year and have a ski trip. And I managed to not tag along with them, but meet them and hang out with them and drinks and fun and ski, which was really fun. And it was great, and that's how I got a chance to meet BJ, who is a very successful. And I only gauge her success by the fact that every time I want to talk to her or try to get her onto these calls, she's like, my calendar's booked all day with my clients, and she does a lot of executive coaching. And as part of, and you have her website, and as part of today's talk, there is a 3-page handout that will be a PDF download, and that will be made available along with the recording on my website. So she may reference it. That's where you'll be able to find it once it gets posted up there, which will be later today. And then also in her 11 or 12-minute talk now, she's going to give you a writing exercise. So if you have a pen handy and you're in front of something, you should actually pay attention just for kicks if you want to be able to participate in that. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and unmute BJ, and BJ, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Lloyd, for that fun introduction, and hello, everyone. Sorry I can't see your faces right now, but as Lloyd was mentioning, this is like a time where we're like on a roller coaster. You can feel optimistic one day and then sad or anxious another day. So it's a really important time that you gather some new tools to level up your mental game. And I want to make sure, like Lloyd just said, that you have a pen and paper, because as we get further down in the conversation, I'm going to have you write a few sentences out. So we've been in this COVID-19 war room, for lack of better words, for about 4 weeks now, maybe 5. And are you feeling more settled this past week or not? I know for me, like Lloyd said, some days are better than others, which triggers me to have to dive deeper into staying mentally fit. And today I want to share with you my 2-step mindset practice for mental health, or mental sanity, I guess. So you're able to take control when you feel emotionally overwhelmed. Under stress, especially in this unprecedented pandemic, 2 things go off the rails: our emotions and our behavior. And when you're hardwired to focus on some level of achievement, like most type A personalities are, or even if you're just conditioned by our society where high performance matters, then going from full speed in your life to completely stopped or in park in a matter of hours, like we all just experienced, is not going to be smooth. And the secret is accepting this moment, allowing yourself a little slack. It's natural that we feel upset, or we feel unproductive, or nervous, or fatigued, maybe all of them. Let me give you an example. I have had things on my to-do list for about 3 weeks now, and they just keep getting pushed to the next day and to the next day. Things that I really need to get done and in my eyes are deemed important. And even at home, I have this pressure that I'm failing if I don't achieve them all. And I'm exhausted fighting with myself about it. But here and now, I really do need to be more kind and not try to juggle each and every day into a successful marathon. The compassion with oneself has to occur, even more so for type A or highly functioning people. And I get it. It's super hard to give yourself a break, especially now when you're really nervous. So here's how I understand this to be. Low expectations. Having a lower expectation mindset at this moment will serve you better. And as Tim Ferriss, if you're familiar with him, he said on his podcast this week, if you're consistently forcing yourself into extreme optimism or extreme achievement, you're going to let yourself down. Well, this dovetails perfectly with a key concept that I teach all my clients, which is life is 50-50. And what that means is the human experience is designed to be 50% negative and 50% positive. When you're not expecting or believing that you're supposed to feel good all the time and that negative emotions mean something's wrong with you, then you will struggle more. I guarantee it. I see this often with my clients, even before the COVID crisis. This is fundamentally a big problem because our advanced society has now driven us to have to learn about modern emotional health, which is being taught at Yale, Harvard, and University of Penn. So if you were to really reflect on your life and be honest with your experiences, I'm positive you'll see about half of your life is filled with both good and bad, and it's probably 50-50. And when you accept this is how life is designed, then the negative experiences or the negative emotions won't feel so catastrophic. But here we are in a very negative experience, and we need to get us back to feeling in control. So the two-step mindset strategy to help us is a thought management strategy. There are many mindset techniques out there, meditation, gratitude, outward mindset. All of them are lovely. But the one I found that works, or I like to use in conjunction with those, is thought management because it's rooted in cognitive science behavior. Okay, step 1, self-awareness. I'm sure you guys have read this in all kinds of self-help books, but becoming super self-aware of how you're thinking. It's like you're almost hovering over your mind to observe what you're thinking all the time. And most of us go through life with our brains just on autopilot, which is super dangerous. And when on autopilot, your brain, it reverts back to the way it was wired from primitive days. And the 3 basic survival principles that cavemen used were seek pleasure, avoid pain, and do the least amount of effort. And here's what I know. We live in this modern advanced society, and we're not taught how to manage our behavior or our emotions. So we fall into this trap of avoiding and resisting these negative emotions. And this is where the struggle really begins. You have to start being more self-aware so you don't fall into this trap. So what is self-awareness? It's the ability to observe and have an edit function on your inner monologue. Like I was mentioning in the beginning, you have to start being, when you have that negative self-talk, then you, when you have self-awareness, you're able to referee your own mind. So my favorite quote that I want to share with you is by B.J. Miller, and it's, "Do not believe everything you think." All right. So once you've developed self-awareness or a practice of self-awareness, you can go on to number 2. And number 2 is work through your problem with a tool that I call the thought model. And the premise for this tool is every problem in your life is just a thought problem. And I'm going to repeat it. What if I told you every problem in your life is just a thought problem? I've had a few people walk out on this one, but hear me out. At a very high level, the scientific behavior goes something like this. How you think about a fear experience equals fear behavior equals negative results. Therefore, your thoughts create your results. Like Lloyd mentioned, he's going to have the thought model worksheet for you after our talk, but for now, take out that pen and paper if you don't mind. As I explain the thought model tool, I want you to write these letters down in a column on the left-hand side of your sheet. So going down the sheet, I want you to write C, T, F, A, R. And I'm going to go through what those acronyms mean. So the thought model definition goes like this. C is the circumstance. It's a fact. It has to be a neutral thing, situation that we all agree upon. The entire world would agree upon it. It can't be debated. And T is for thought. It's the thoughts that you're having about that circumstance. And F is for the feeling. It's how you feel when you think those thoughts. And A is for action. It's how you act when you feel that emotion. It's how you behave or react. And R is the result. And the result is what you're getting from how you're behaving. 95% of the time, the result will reinforce the thoughts you're having. So I want to walk through a real example, one that we're all experiencing right now, so I can show you how this works. So again, if you don't mind, if you didn't write that, if you wrote that definition down, now write CTFAR again, and here we're going to fill it in. The situation we're in, or the circumstance right now, is the COVID crisis. We can all agree upon that. It's a fact. The thoughts that we're having about the COVID crisis can range from, I'm going to lose all my money, I'm going to lose my clients, I'm going to lose my job. I'm sure one of those works for you at some point on the roller coaster. And when you think those thoughts, how do you feel? I usually get anxious when I think those thoughts. And when I'm anxious, how do I act, or how do you act when you're anxious? Most of us get paralyzed, or we're spinning around. And when we're spinning or we're paralyzed, the results we have are that we don't do anything. We don't produce any work. And if you think about that result, looking back up to your thoughts, that result reinforces the thought, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my clients. Yeah, because you're not doing any work. So how can we fix this? How can you get a different result? You get different results by choosing new thoughts. Thoughts are choices. Circumstances aren't. And I'm not asking you to switch your mind to some positive thing, like force it into being positive. Not at all. But you can challenge the thoughts you're having. Let me offer you some thoughts that I've been trying out lately. Okay, one of them is this. A lot of innovation and new companies are born out of downturns and crises. So we could have more clients. Or when I get some free time, I really want to take this class online. Or I really want to help my clients. How can I add value right now? So any of those thoughts that I'm producing right now are creating curiosity. I'm starting to feel more curious. And when I'm more curious, then I'm more motivated to start looking at things and trying things and doing things. And when I do things, the result is I get work produced. And hopefully that will get me new clients, or that will serve me in some way so that I don't lose all my money, hopefully. So you see how it works. It truly is starting with our thoughts and how we behave. But here's where most of us get stuck. If you're not highly self-aware of your thoughts, then you end up believing life is happening to you. You end up believing your thoughts are true. You end up believing your thoughts are the circumstance. And you are powerless, and this is where you really struggle. So, like I said, this moment is tragic on so many levels, and now is the time to really become more in control by using a mindset strategy like thought management. When needed, try to choose new thoughts about the crisis or whatever you're struggling with. And so the results you will start to experience will transform from being stuck into productive. Put this thought management strategy into practice, and it takes practice, believe me. I'm a seasoned coach, and I coach myself often, and I still get married to my story. I get married to my inner dialogue, and I need help. Please reach out for support. I'm happy to help you via email or a quick call just to work through any situation that you have. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
And that's a lot. Thank you. So listening to that was wonderful. I absolutely loved it, and you could see so much of what I'm going through right now in that as well. And this reminds me of a wonderful quote from one of my favorite people in the world, or former favorite people, Lucille Ball. There's a great quote that I review every once in a while, and she goes, whenever I feel down, she goes, the best way, to counter that, and I'm paraphrasing, is to just do something productive. So when she was feeling discouraged, she would jump into work, and she did something. And I think that, in this case, to your point, BJ, making it, productive work, taking an online class and doing something. And I know for myself, that's exactly what I'm doing. I actually have a girlfriend flying out in about 2 weeks to join me here in Palm Springs for some serious fun brainstorming and, just really free mind mapping and some great thinking. So that being said, I would love to invite our wonderful listeners to ask some questions. Anybody who has a question, just push *6 on your phone, and you'll be unmuted, and we would love to get your questions, either of us.
Lloyd, is it okay? Ready?
We hear you. Go for it, Tim.
Hi, BJ. I appreciate you participating today. Do you have a podcast that we could listen to, or any suggestions other than Tim Ferriss?
Well, I do not have a podcast, and maybe one day I'll start one soon. I really like Brené Brown. Her new podcast just came out about 6 weeks ago. And then I don't know if anybody subscribes to Sam Harris. He has a free version of his podcast, but he goes deep on psychological health. And just recently he had Laura Santos on from Yale, who teaches the science of well-being at Yale. And she went through a lot of interesting topics similar to what I'm discussing. But I can shoot you some more podcasts that I listen to. Donald Miller is another one. He's really about marketing and business, but he hits a lot of thought leadership stuff like this. And Entree Leadership has some good stuff on it. Entree Leadership is another podcast.
Eckhart Tolle has one that he discusses being present. And I have been telling myself, just be present. Don't fear the future because you don't know what it is. Just stay present. It has helped. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And Tim, to your point, I can also say that, and here I try to be a Mr. Motivational person, and even myself, when something, in my case, I already mentioned my hot button is ignoring me. If I feel ignored, then I go, why am I being ignored? It must be me. And I start going down a rabbit hole, or if someone's not responding, then I start fabricating, my response to them, which of course is going to be a negative response. And then I have to catch myself, I have to stop myself and go, wait a second. Maybe it isn't going to be negative. How about a positive conversation? What would be the conversation when I'm responding affirmatively and gratefully for what they've just done for me? And it's a tough one. Can we get any other questions, please? *6.
Hi, Lloyd and BJ. This is Kristen Boehm. Lloyd, thank you. Also part of the Mammoth Ski Group. Lloyd, thank you for this opportunity. BJ, very insightful talk. My question is around the notion of changing human behavior. Change is something that comes very difficult to people, some of us more than others. And I know there have been studies trying to approximate how long it takes a repetitive action to really change human behavior. So, BJ, I was wondering if you have had any experience or insight into that kind of time frame.
Well, I work with my clients on this exact subject or tool around many of their own situations. They bring me a new one every week, right? And we go through this. And I think I've seen the light bulb go on for my clients having the ability to at least calm down and understand they can get back in control of things. Whether patterns really, really change or not, I'm not sure, because I've had clients come back a year later and we talk about the same stuff. But what this does is help you, if you practice it consistently for 1 or 2 or 3 months, it gives you this pause edit function to get some perspective. And the way you break patterns and habits, though, is to actually, I would start off with a different type of coaching with you, where we would get into what happened, not necessarily like a therapist, but like why you're thinking all those thoughts. And once we get to the root, we ask why about 6 times, and you can actually figure out why you have that behavior or pattern. Sometimes that will release the pattern from happening further on. But I think we all come back to very ingrained behaviors and patterns on a yearly basis. This just gives you a tool to kind of get out of that pattern if you're self-aware, to break that pattern. I don't know if that answered your question.
And I love that. I love the response, and I'd like to add a layer to this, and then ask you to jump back in, BJ. Through a lot of the studying that I've done, like for instance, Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey is not, obviously, he's no longer alive, but there are a lot of recordings of him out there. And Stephen Covey was one of my gurus for time management, but just life balance. And Stephen would simply say, habits, whether good or bad, are formed through repetition. So, if you want to change a particular habit, you need to replace it with a better habit and then practice it. I was recently, since I've been sequestered at home, eating lots and lots of desserts left and right, lots of sugar, everything. And I figured, what the hell, I'm home, no one can see me. But then I realized I was ODing on sugar, not to mention the alcohol. So sugar upon sugar upon sugar. And I read online that they said if you can cut out refined sugar just for 10 days, that it will help break the addiction. And 10 is an interesting number. On the professional side, one says that if you really want to be mastery at something, you need to do 10,000 hours of it. That's an extreme. Mm-hmm. But point being is, it's through repeating. And athletes get really good because they do the same thing over and over again. And it's like smoking. I mean, I used to smoke when I used to drink heavily. Now I just... I've minimized the drinking to a degree, but, I managed to stop smoking. I just kind of stopped one day. So, I think there's a variety of things. So with that as an overlay, BJ, do you make any distinctions between physical things versus personal things versus mental, professional, anything like that when it comes to habits?
Well, pose that question again one more time.
Well, I guess, if like for instance, do you think like a professional habit, I'm going to make X number of phone calls, or I want to get in the habit of, listen, a lot of my design firms struggle, believe it or not, with having a weekly office meeting, and they may get it going, mm-hmm. and then they stop doing it. And you're right, this is the same thing they'll revisit every year. So that's something that relates to the office, ergo professional, versus let's say eating sugar or working out. Right. Everybody's home now. Are you going to be disciplined to do it? Do you make any distinction or see any difficulty level, or is is it just habit and practice? Applies for anything.
I think it's taking your brain off of autopilot and using your prefrontal cortex so that you really stick to a plan, stick to a routine, stick to whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. You really have to take control of the brain, or it will go wild. Like it's like a baby, picture a toddler running around the bedroom with a knife. Would you let your toddler run around with a knife? Well, your brain, when you're not managing it every moment, if you can, then you will be dangerous. And I think that is the key to triggering any sort of routine or anything that you want to get ahead of or get on top of. You're going to have to be in control. This doesn't mean you're a ninja and you're constantly trying to be this optimistic or, very regimented person. I definitely love my pity party. I love giving myself time for pity parties. So don't think that this has to be a practice that's like go, go, go into this really, mindset way. It's just when you get stuck or when you're really down, let's just evaluate those thoughts. Let's ask ourselves why we're thinking this. And is there another choice to think? You have to believe the thought. I don't want you just to choose a thought that's random. You have to believe in it. But if you really start to examine why you're thinking things and why you're doing things, you will get back on track. But I really do believe being in control of your brain more than not will help you with any situation, whether it's in your personal or professional life. And I believe in routines, physical routines, wake up, sleep routines, eat routines. Those really serve highly functioning people well.
And that's great. And I wanted just to add to that, for those of you who are yoga aficionados, one of the things that they almost inevitably say in every yoga practice is they remind you it's a practice. And we have to practice it, and you keep trying, and some days are better than others, and some days we can. So do not beat yourself up. I forgot who I was talking to this morning. Oh, I know. The lovely Rocky LaFleur with Needler Fisher out of California. He goes, don't should all over yourself. Don't beat yourself up when things don't fall exactly as we want them, or we miss one of our practices. Other questions, please. We have a few more minutes for questions.
There's a saying that I really like. It's that the mind is a wonderful tool, but a terrible master. So I remind myself of that. And also, when I feel myself starting to become fearful, I remind myself that everybody in the country is going through the same thing. So I'm less inclined to take it personally. So, and I say, thank you for doing this. I think you're just very kind, and that's all I needed to say.
Thanks.
Great quote, and Stephen Covey actually references that exact same quote in his book. And I will just say, listen, professionally as well, I'm right now in the process of, I haven't had any revenue. What month are we in? Gosh, we're in April. So I haven't had any revenue this month in my business. I might just point that out. And I've drawn down lines of credit, and now I have debt that I didn't have before, and I have felt kind of crappy about that. And I have reminded myself that many people are in the same boat, and a lot of people have it significantly worse than I do. At least I still live well, and I can pay things, and I can, even give money to my family. So, but it does help to remind we are all in this together. So nobody's going to be judging you, and I think it's important to realize that. Do we have another question? Any other questions for BJ?
One other thing that I've been doing is a lot of marketing. I've been going on Vistaprints, and I've made some beautiful postcards. They're very inexpensive. You can put a photo of your room, get your message on there, and I've been using LinkedIn as a tool to, just reach out to people, make contacts with them, and then send them my postcards. And that's helped me to stay busy.
Well, busy is good. I would add to that if somebody is going to be gauging a platform like LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever you do, there's a really important key component of that, and that is you need to actually engage the individual. So rather than just post something, which like I post my articles or my blog posts, you actually need to go in and respond to other people's with other than that's great. Actually, when someone does post something that you are interested in, or you're interested in them, or whatever it is, give them some feedback. Say, that was a really great article. I really appreciate your thoughts on it. Or, yes, I 100% agree with you because of X, Y, and Z. It is about an engagement. So social media becomes effective when you're actually able to have a dialogue with people, some sort of back and forth. So remember, that's proactive versus passive. And in speaking of marketing, the reason why I was speaking with Rocky LaFleur this morning is because I actually have a rather pricey promotional video that was filmed at the end of last year, and I was expecting to launch it at the beginning of this year, and for a variety of reasons did not receive it, and it wasn't finished until about a week ago. And I was thinking, gosh, this isn't the time to put out about my services because does anyone care? But in speaking with a number of professional colleagues of mine coast to coast, they said, you know what, no, now is the time to proceed with your marketing because a lot of people we're talking to are feeling more buoyant, and they think that they see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of at least business resuming. So my video will be dropping through Business of Home, which was my who filmed it for me. That'll be coming out next week. So I have made the decision to release an expensive piece of marketing next week with the thought that the design industry is gearing up. So that's my own personal experience. Anybody else with a thought or a question they'd like to share? Okay. BJ, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to add to what you said?
I would just say, Lloyd, it's wonderful that you recognized you were in a funk, and you still have all these wonderful things that you can offer other people. But I want you to, just also give yourself the space to be in that funk for a little bit. Like, let's not try to resist or get out of a negative emotion all the time right away. Like, let it process through, and that's one thing I would say. And then the other thing I would say is, one of my favorite ways to challenge my thinking is, where would I be without this thought? And that's just an easy way to kind of flip your mind. Where would I be without this thought? But other than that, I want to say, hang in there, everybody, and let me know if I can help you in any other way, and always believe in better.
Okay, and agreed. Hey, and just for fun, everybody, I was going to do this before anyway, but I'm going to put the lovely Dr. Boehm on the spot. Christine, are you still online with us?
Let's see, star six.
You're there. You're there already. Chris, are you there?
Do you hear me, Lloyd?
Okay. Now I can hear you. Okay, so
okay.
I have a quick thought. So as I mentioned, Dr. Boehm is a plastic surgeon. So Christine, when are the non-elective things going to be reopening again? And now that we're all home and examining ourselves and feeling extra frumpy.
Yeah, excellent question. So I live in Georgia, and Georgia theoretically opened today. But most people are not really taking the governor's word, and most people are still kind of sheltering in place. There's a couple things in my world. One is, the kind of office-based, non-invasive procedures, which are probably, again, at least in Georgia, going to resume in 2 weeks. The other arm of that is surgery. And beyond just what states are allowing, there's the question of PPE. And as everyone knows, there's been a dramatic shortage in PPE, particularly the number one item is gowns. And so surgery can't proceed without gowns. So there's a certain pressure for hospitals to start surgeries back up because those are revenue generators, and hospitals are hurting right now. But unfortunately, we have to do it in a safe manner. So probably there's a lot of recommendations from the American College of Surgeons. Surgeries will be starting up again in the next month, but it will certainly be on, a little bit of a ramp up. And in addition, they may start with certain service lines first. Certainly those that are deemed a little more essential than, say, aesthetic surgery, and additionally things that may be revenue generating like cardiac and ortho. So there's a lot of recommendations by the American College of Surgeons, but in the next month we should start to see hospitals gearing back up, assuming that they can do so with enough PPE for staff and keep patients safe as well. So time will tell, Lloyd.
So am I to understand then that, let's say, I don't know, a cardiac surgery could be more important than, liposuction, which helps one's self-esteem and keeps you motivated?
Well,
that just
with
seems
reference to my own specialty, yes, that is the case.
Well, the world has gone crazy, that's for sure. Okay, so BJ, Dr. Boehm, thank you. Thank you to the people who proffered their questions. Thank you to everybody who continues to dial in. I will have the audio recording available later today. The 3-page document that BJ mentioned, which is the worksheet, will be available on my blog as well. Just the Design Management Company blog, as always, has all the recordings. We'll have that as a download. BJ's contact information is there. And I hope you all have a beautiful Friday. I encourage all of you to have a happy hour this Friday by yourself or with others. And don't feel guilty about it. And don't have one, have 2 drinks. So bid you well. This is Lloyd. I appreciate everybody. Have a beautiful Friday and a great weekend.